Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're venturing into a really fascinating area, maybe one you haven't thought much about.
Right, the global market for cellular interception.
Exactly. We've got this recent report, and it really sort of pulls back the curtain on the size, the
Mm.
growth, who's involved.
It's significant stuff.
Yeah.
The ability to monitor mobile communications is a huge technological aspect and, well, a big market too.
And that's what this deep dive is about, getting a handle on that commercial side,
Yeah.
understanding the scale.
Yeah, we're not planning to get bogged down in, the super technical weeds of how it all works.
No, definitely not.
The focus today is more on the market itself. What are the key insights from this report? What's the scale? What's driving it?
So you can get informed quickly without needing, an engineering degree.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The report kicks off with some, frankly, eye-opening numbers. For 2025, they're projecting the global market at USD 728.34 million.
Wow, almost $750 million. That's substantial.
And it's not stopping there. It's expected to grow, reaching over a billion USD, 143.45 million by 2033.
And that growth rate, the compound annual growth rate, or CAGR,
Yeah.
it's 5.8% between 2025 and 2033. That tells you it's, sustained growth, not just a quick blip.
A steady climb.
Right. And important to note, the base year here is 2024, with historical data going back to 2021, so it's fairly current.
Got it. So a significant market getting significantly bigger over the next, 8 years or so. Where is this activity concentrated regionally?
Well, the report breaks that down. North America comes out on top, clearly the largest slice.
Okay. How large?
Projected at USD 269.49 million for 2025. That's over 40% of the whole global market.
40%, and the growth there.
Solid 4.3% CAGR expected through 2033. And within North America, the U.S. is, well, the dominant player.
Unsurprisingly, perhaps.
Yeah, USD 212.62 million projected for the U.S. market alone. The growth rate there is slightly lower, 4.1%.
And the report links that to 5G rollouts and AI and surveillance.
Exactly. The tech advancements are actually fueling the market for monitoring that same tech.
Interesting dynamic. What about Canada and Mexico?
Canada's pegged at about USD 32.34 million, with a slightly higher CAGR, 5.1%. The report suggests that's influenced by their strict laws around lawful interception.
Right, the legal frameworks matter.
They do. And Mexico's around USD 24.52 million, growing at 4.8%. So North America's tech base and security investments really show.
Okay, moving across the pond to Europe, still a major player, I assume.
Oh, definitely. The second largest, estimated at USD 211.22 million for 2025. That's over 30% of the global revenue.
And their growth.
Pretty steady, a 4.9% CAGR. The country breakdown within Europe is quite interesting, too.
Lay it on us.
Okay, so Germany is actually the largest in Europe at USD 41.82 million, with a 5.1% growth. The UK is next, USD 35.48 million, but slightly faster growth at 5.7%.
Interesting variation there.
Then you have France, around USD 19.43 million, growing at 4.1%.
Right.
Russia's listed too, USD 32.74 million, but with slower growth, 3.9%.
It makes sense given current factors, perhaps. What about Southern Europe?
Italy's at USD 18.16 million, 4.3% growth. Spain's quite similar, USD 17.32 million, 4.0% growth.
And the Nordics. Smaller, but maybe faster.
Some are, yeah. Sweden at 5.0% growth, Denmark 4.7%, Switzerland 4.5%. Even Luxembourg, smaller base, USD 2.53 million, but strong 5.2% growth.
And the rest of Europe combined.
That pulls together another USD 29.57 million, though the growth is a bit slower, 3.6%. It really shows consistent investment across the continent.
Driven by network security, fraud prevention, that kind of thing.
That's what the report suggests, plus meeting those lawful interception requirements we mentioned.
Okay, now let's shift focus to Asia Pacific, APAC. You mentioned this region is going fast.
Extremely fast. The fastest, actually. Their 2025 market size is projected at USD 174.80 million, so about 23% of the global share.
Which is substantial, but the growth.
That's the key story here. A CGR of 8.5% between 2025 and 2033, significantly higher than North America or Europe.
Wow, 8.5%. That really signals a potential shift in where the market's heading. Who are the big players in APAC?
China leads the pack, USD 73.42 million projected, with an 8.0% growth rate. Then Japan, about USD 24.12 million, 7.0% growth. South Korea, USD 20.98 million, 7.6% growth.
Okay, but you mentioned a standout.
India, yes, projected market around USD 17.48 million, But the CAGR is a really impressive 10.4%.
10% growth, that's huge. Suggests a
And
rapidly increasing need as their digital footprint expands.
absolutely. And others are growing strongly too.
Yeah.
Australia, about USD 9 million, 7.8% growth. Singapore, smaller at USD 3.5 million, but 8.8% growth.
Taiwan, Southeast Asia.
Taiwan, USD 6.82 million, 8.3%. So what's driving this boom in APAC? Expanding networks, security threats?
It's a mix. The report points to cyber threats, border security issues, terrorism concerns driving defense and military needs.
And just the sheer growth in mobile and internet use, like in India. Exactly. Plus, in places like China, there's significant focus on monitoring national communications.
Makes sense. Okay, let's quickly cover the other regions. South America.
South America is projected at USD 27.68 million in 2025. That's just over 5% of the global market. Growth is decent, 6.5% CAGR.
Who leads there? Brazil.
Yes, Brazil's the largest at USD 11.85 million with a 7.1% growth rate. Argentina follows, smaller market at USD 4.65 million, but slightly faster growth, 7.4%.
Colombia, Peru, Chile.
Smaller markets, but growing steadily around 6-7%. The rest of South America adds another USD 4.46 million or so, growing a bit slower at 5.6%.
And the drivers there? Cyber risks, crime.
That's the gist. Increased digital risks pushing cybersecurity needs. Law enforcement tackling organized crime, especially in Brazil, and generally improving security infrastructure, like in Argentina.
Got it. What about the Middle East? Smaller share, but maybe high growth.
You nailed it. About 2% global share, USD 29.13 million projected for 2025, but the growth is strong, 7.1% CAGR.
Key countries.
Saudi Arabia and the UAE lead, both with CAGRs over 7%. Turkey and Qatar also showing solid growth around 7.7% and 6.6% respectively. Egypt and the rest contribute too.
Driven by government spending on security?
Largely, yes. Public safety, national security, counterterrorism, protecting critical infrastructure like oil and gas.
And finally, Africa. Smallest share currently.
Right, around 1% of global revenue. USD 16.02 million projected for 2025. Growth is 6.1% CAGR.
Main markets.
South Africa is the largest, USD 5.64 million, growing at 7.0%. Nigeria is smaller, USD 1.28 million, 6.3% growth. The rest of Africa makes up the bulk, around USD 9 million, growing at 5.3%.
And the focus there? Private sector security, maybe?
The report mentions that, yeah, private sector focus on data security, especially banking, telecom. Also government needs, like tracking terrorist communications in places like Nigeria, and general law enforcement spending.
Okay, so that paints a really interesting global picture. North America and Europe are the big established markets, but APAC is where the really explosive growth is happening.
Definitely the key regional takeaway.
Now, let's break down what makes up these systems. The report talks about components, software versus hardware.
Right. Software is seen as the dominant component right now.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. You need sophisticated tools for the analysis, the processing, decryption, the signal processing, analytics platforms, maybe AI surveillance tools.
But hardware is growing faster.
Yes, that's what the report flags. Fastest growing segment. Driven by the need for more advanced physical interception devices, things like IMSI catchers, signal jammers, those monitoring stations.
As the tech gets more complex, you need better gear to catch it. Makes sense. What about the type of system? Strategic versus tactical, what's the difference?
Good question. Strategic systems are sort of the big, broad ones, used by law enforcement, intelligence agencies for national security. Think large-scale signal interception, locating targets over wide areas, maybe traditional wiretapping concepts adapted. They hold the largest market share currently.
Okay, the big picture stuff. And tactical?
Tactical is more real-time, on-the-ground surveillance. Mobile units, those IMS eye catchers you hear about, sometimes called stingrays, used in specific field operations to grab device IDs in a localized area.
Ah, so more immediate localized use.
Exactly. And that tactical segment is expanding rapidly. Maybe indicates a shift towards needing those immediate field capabilities more often.
Interesting. Strategic is bigger now, but tactical is growing faster. Okay, what about the actual technology being intercepted? We hear about 5G all the time, but is that the main target?
Surprisingly, maybe 3G, 4G, and LTE combined still hold the largest share for interception targets.
Just because they're still so widely used globally.
Precisely. Monitoring them is still essential for cybersecurity, law enforcement, counterterrorism.
Yeah.
But the fastest growing segment is identified as CDMA.
CDMA, that's an older standard, isn't it?
It is. Code division multiple access. It's interesting that it's flagged as fast growing. It suggests there's still significant demand in regions where CDMA networks are active.
For tracking voice and text on those specific networks.
Presumably, yes. The report also mentions others like GSM, satellite cellular, hybrid systems, UMTS. It covers the gamut.
It's a good reminder that new tech doesn't just erase the old overnight. Okay, finally on segmentation. Who's using this stuff? Public versus private sector.
The public segment is definitely the largest user base currently. Law enforcement, public safety, national security, emergency response, border security, intelligence agencies. The usual suspects for this kind of tech.
Makes sense. But the private sector is growing.
Rapidly, according to the report. This includes things like network monitoring by telecom operators themselves, corporate security, maybe security firms using it for intelligence gathering.
For things like fraud prevention, data protection.
Yeah, detecting malicious activity on corporate networks. That seems to be a key driver for private sector growth.
So governments are the main buyers now, but businesses are increasingly seeing a need for similar capabilities. We've touched on growth drivers regionally, but what does the report cite as the main global drivers?
It boils it down to three main things. One, the increased need for lawful interception legally authorized monitoring.
Okay.
Two, unfortunately, the rising incidence of crime worldwide, which makes these tools seem necessary for investigation and prevention.
Right.
And three, simply the ongoing adoption and expansion of cellular technology itself. More phones, more data, bigger environment to potentially monitor.
Seems logical. On the flip side, what's holding back even faster growth? What are the restraints?
The big one is ethical and privacy concerns. That definitely puts a damper on things.
Understandably.
And related to that, the sale and use are heavily restricted in many places. You need authorization. It's often limited to specific government agencies due to those strict lawful interception rules. That naturally limits the commercial market.
So privacy concerns and regulations are the main breaks. What about future trends? What's on the horizon?
Two key trends are highlighted. First, a rising demand for cloud-based interception solutions.
Following the general shift to the cloud, I suppose, for scalability.
Seems likely, yeah. Accessibility, scalability. The second trend is, well, predictable. Growing demand for 5G interception technologies.
As 5G becomes dominant, you need the tools to monitor it.
Exactly. You have to keep pace with the network evolution.
Makes perfect sense. Now, the competitive landscape. Who are the big companies in this space?
The report mentions that the leaders are really focusing on those trends we just talked about, 5G interception, using AI for analytics, general tech breakthroughs.
Any specific names mentioned?
Yeah, quite a few. The spyphone.com, Stratine, Novio QWay, Netline Communications Technologies, HSS Development, Shogi Communications Ltd, PIC, EVSX, Endo-Accestica Europe. That's a bit of a mouthful.
Keep going. This is useful.
Mac XSA Group, Sovereign Systems, Axiom Technologies PVT Ltd, and PERT Telecom Solutions PVT Ltd. It's a mix of known security comms players and some more specialized firms. The report also notes some competitor data is confidential.
Which isn't surprising for this field. How do they compete? Is it all about government contracts?
That's a big part of it, yes. Government contracts are key. But also forming alliances within the cybersecurity world, pooling resources or expertise. And, of course, R&D spending is crucial to stay ahead technologically.
Any examples of partnerships?
Yeah, it gives a couple. Pertzl partnering with BSNL in India for a location system linked to legal interception. And Corning working with Enersys on infrastructure for 5G small cells that's more indirect support, but relevant to the networks being monitored.
So direct competition for deals, but also strategic partnerships. Okay. As we start to wrap this up, what are the main takeaways for you from this whole deep dive?
I think the key thing is just recognizing this is a large, growing, global industry. It's not some niche thing. It's driven by real security needs, both public and private sector, and by the sheer pace of technological change in communications.
And the regional differences are stark.
Absolutely. Where the market is biggest now versus where it's growing fastest tells an important story about shifting dynamics. And the trends towards cloud and 5G show where it's headed next.
It really is a fascinating convergence of technology, security, and, well, global economics. So, maybe a final thought for you, our listener, to chew on. Given this undeniable growth and the increasing sophistication of cellular interception technology, what does that really mean for the balance we're constantly trying to strike between security needs and personal privacy in our hyper-connected world? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.